I'd like to talk about nasal resonance as I understand it. What is it? Well, it's increasing the resonance in the nasal cavities. Maybe it doesn't sound too cheery, but anyway, let me go on. There are various things you can do to increase that resonance by positioning. This is all my understanding, by the way. Everyone's free to have their own interpretation or understanding of it. Now, what exercises might you do? You may know some of them. You may have heard singers going, how can you tell when it's a singer practicing? Do, re, mi, 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 mi. How do you know when it's a singer at the door? Got the wrong key. How do you know when it's a singer knocking at your door? Doesn't know when to come in. Anyway, the me, 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 me bit. You may have heard that. A lot of the historical exercises have got this me. They've got this hum on the front. Okay. So the exercises people use are humming exercises. And there are a few of them. Or, that's a crow, I could hum like this. That's an M with an N. And people often use an NG. I'll go through them again from the NG back in reverse order. Now, you can play with all of them if you want. They've got slightly different qualities. I think the M is possibly the most useful, and that's one you hear most people, singers when they're practicing, using. But even that is not sufficient, because I'm going to use the M here in several different ways, or a few. Here's one. If I put those together and move them around, and you thought it was simple. Which of those then? Well, I'm going to tell you what I think, and from my experience, because I think this kind of thing needs to be clear, because if you're practicing the wrong thing, you may as well have a glass of wine. Because then you've got to go back and undo what you've practiced. I was going to say there's nothing worse. There are worse things than that, I'm sure. But better don't even go there in the first place. So, to me then, with this humming business, is the forward placement. So it'll be this one. Because that brightness is what I'm after developing. This one, I can't see there's much use in that. There might be, do as you wish, but I can't see, for me, there's much use in that. So we know what we're doing now when you're doing a humming exercise. You're looking for that bright place. Now I'm going to go through them because some students have difficulty finding it. I'm going to say, use your intelligence. When I say use your intelligence, I'm talking about copying. Copying is magnificent intelligence if you copy correctly. Because what am I going to tell you? You can't think it. Intellect is of no use. So this is very swift if you copy correctly. So I'm going to go through them and you just see if you can perceive, and the intelligence will take care of it. You might have to do it a few times. So we don't want this one so much. Going to do it again for those of you that want to copy. Be careful not to get twang involved, though they're quite close and sometimes you get a bit of both, but you might find yourself copying mistakenly by going trying to put some of that. It's not that. In the end, it feels very light and as if it's there, right on the front of my face. I call it the mask. So hopefully you can just go through that a few times and just mimic, just copy, and as I say, intelligence takes care of it for you. It's beautiful. Okay, I know what you're thinking, or I have an idea what you might be thinking. You might be thinking, what's the use of being good at humming? Very good. What is the use of being good at humming? when it comes to singing. I'm going to tell you. It's not so much the humming, it's finding that place and then maintaining it on a vowel. Because that's what you sing on. The easiest vowel to maintain it on, because of the setup inside here, happens to be an E. So you often hear singers doing their me, 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 me. So you might do this once you've found it. Me. Make sure I'm not overloading. I'll do it again. Me. Careful not to do this. Me. I've lost it. So you want to be able to leave it there. And then you can go to all the vowels. R sometimes tends to be the hardest one to do it on because the tongue goes down and it tends to, the sound can go back, but it doesn't have to. So we now got just checking the computer's still recording because it's a bit tricky, this one. It's got funny little ways of rebooting. And when it reboots, it takes half an hour. But we're okay so far. So with that one then, if that was too loud, I'd have brought the volume down in post, providing there's room to. Yes, there is, because the recording level's well low, so we're right. So we might get a bit of hiss, going to have to boost everything. Don't worry. You can hear what you need to hear. Okay, so what you're trying to do is leave it there. Not where it's gone. Watch out for something. Some people tend to be very careful in trying to concentrate and keep it there, which, you know, you've got to practice a bit, work it in. And then they don't give themselves any other resonance. So if I were to do this, I'm scared to move anything because I think I might lose it. But in the end, you realise this. You can do anything here and it can stay there. That's probably the place where you want to get to. Now, what use is that? Well, as you can probably hear from this, it adds some brightness and some projection. Can help with the low notes, can help with the higher notes. With the low notes, if I'm a bit dull, I can add the brightness to it. Do you want that or not? Don't forget, most of these exercises, vast majority of the exercises you're going to come across came from bel canto and classical and opera. And they, I imagine, did want that. You may or may not want it. So you can play with these things and just think, yeah, that's fun, but not for me. So that's what that's about. Be able to do it on every vowel and be able to do it whilst you're singing as well. So it tends to stay there is what they like, and that's what it's about. Now, works on high notes as well, which I'm not going to do. I'm going to turn right. I don't know if it's going to work, so I have to turn right away from this. So we'll see how we get on. If I do the high note with it back, we might get something like ha. Gets a bit there. If I add that to it, ha. Can you hear it's brighter, cuts more. It's easier. It's more efficient somehow. It just pings. I think, yeah. What's the difference between nasal resonance and nasality? That's what the student asked me after they'd practiced this. And they said, will this make me nasal? I said, not necessarily. Well, no. Let me be very specific in my own way, just me. And I will say no, but it can sound a bit nasal. Now, sorry to use that. I'm going to give you as much nasal resonance as I can muster. And I'm going to prove to you that it's not technically nasal. And the way I'm going to prove it to you is I'm going to block my nose off. I hope there's no squidging noises. And open it. And you hopefully won't hear any difference in the tone because nothing's coming through my nose. Let me prepare myself. I'll do a lower one so you can hear the low notes and you can really hear the brightness. If I go, I'm going to take the nasal resonance off just to show you one more time. Ah. That's all right. You might want to use that. Ah. I'm going to put it on. Ah. Hopefully you didn't hear any difference as I closed and pinched and unpinched my nose. Now let me make it slightly nasal. To do that, I'm going to leave the palate down a little bit. So some air will come through my nose, so when I block my nose, it'll make a difference. No nasality. There you go. So does that sound, even though it's not technically nasal because nothing coming through the nose, maybe it sounds a bit nasal to you. I don't know. I'll tell you what I do. I practice everything. Why not? And then I see what sticks. I don't know if I use any of that. Yes, I do, for high notes. And yes, for low notes where I need the cut. General singing, I'm not really aware of it. Or I might, if I'm having difficulty getting through the band, I don't want to start pushing, I might add a little bit of it. So, I just use it as and when. But if you practice everything in, hopefully it looks after itself. Anyway, I hope that's been of some use to some of you. And I'll see you next time. Adios.